History isn't just the past, it's the present, especially in East Asia. Here, the echoes of ancient kingdoms still ripple through the daily lives of millions, shaping how people see themselves and their neighbors. The ancient kingdoms of Buyeo, Goguryeo, and Balhae are at the center of a heated debate between China and South Korea. These long-lost realms, once powerful and influential, have become symbols in a struggle over heritage and legitimacy. In Beijing and Seoul, these kingdoms are more than old names. They're the foundation of national identity. Museums, textbooks, and monuments all tell stories that reinforce each country's claim to this shared past. This isn't just a historian's quarrel, it's a political battle shaping diplomacy and public opinion. Every negotiation, every official statement, is colored by the weight of history. The territories of these kingdoms once spanned both modern China and the Korean peninsula, blurring today's borders. Their legacies are woven into the land, making it difficult to draw clear lines between past and present. For South Korea, Goguryeo is a heroic ancestor. Its warriors and kings are celebrated as national icons, inspiring pride and unity. For China, it's a regional power within its imperial history, a chapter in the long story of Chinese civilization's expansion and diversity. This clash turns ancient history into a modern battlefield with national pride at stake. Protests and demonstrations erupt, fueled by passionate beliefs about who owns the past. The fight isn't just about kings or dynasties, it's about the story each nation tells itself. In classrooms and museums, young minds are shaped by these narratives, learning what it means to be Korean or Chinese. When the past is contested, national identity is shaken. The debate over ancient borders and cultural heritage stirs deep emotions and sometimes even anger. The Goguryeo dispute is a fight for the soul of history. Each side seeks to preserve its own version of the truth, guarding ancient sites and artifacts as precious evidence. Who gets to interpret the past? Scholars and politicians alike argue over the meaning of old texts and ruins, knowing that their conclusions will echo far beyond academia. The answer affects international relations and the lives of ethnic minorities. For ethnic Koreans living in China or Chinese citizens with Korean heritage, these debates can shape their sense of belonging and identity. Tensions flare during political friction, like the THAAD missile defense dispute. Historical grievances are revived, fueling suspicion and rivalry in times of crisis. Old grievances resurface, becoming tools in a larger geopolitical contest. The past is wielded as a weapon, influencing negotiations and alliances. The battle over ancient kingdoms is a proxy for modern influence. Each move on the diplomatic chessboard is informed by centuries of shared and contested history. Understanding this clash is key to understanding the fragile relationship between China and South Korea. The stories nations tell about their origins shape how they interact today. The distant past casts a long shadow over the present. Every sunrise over these ancient lands brings new challenges rooted in old memories. In East Asia, history is never really history, it's now. The past lives on, shaping the future in ways both visible and unseen. To truly grasp the roots of this enduring conflict, we must revisit the ancient map and trace the shifting borders of Northeast Asia. The lands that are now fiercely debated were once home to powerful kingdoms whose legacies still echo today. Buyeo, which rose in Manchuria around the 2nd century BCE, is claimed by both sides. Koreans see it as a foundational ancestor, while Chinese historians regard it as a local regime within their sphere. The artifacts and relics left behind are now displayed in museums across both countries, each interpreting them through their own lens. Goguryeo, founded in 37 BCE, quickly became a regional superpower, ruling vast lands that stretched from the open plains of Manchuria to the heart of the Korean peninsula. Its influence shaped the culture, language, and politics of the region for centuries. The capitals of Goguryeo shifted between what is now modern China and North Korea, symbolizing its cross-border legacy and complicating modern claims to its heritage. Goguryeo's legendary military might and its fierce resistance to successive Chinese dynasties are a source of immense Korean pride, fueling a sense of national identity and resilience. After Goguryeo's fall in 668 CE, the kingdom of Balhae emerged, founded by a Goguryeo general. Balhae ruled much of Manchuria and northern Korea, continuing the legacy of its predecessor and further blurring the lines of cultural inheritance. Balhae's mixed population, comprising various ethnic groups, and its cultural sophistication add even more complexity to the dispute. as both nations point to these achievements as evidence of their historical connection. Today, South Korea claims Balhae as an integral part of its history, while China views it as a minority regime that existed under the authority of the Tang dynasty, each side presenting official documents and exhibits to support their stance. The geography of these ancient kingdoms, spanning both modern countries, continues to fuel the modern dispute, as the land itself becomes a symbol of national pride and historical legitimacy. Their borders never match today's political lines, making clear definitions impossible and leaving room for endless debate. Both nations find justification for their claims in this shared, overlapping geography, with scholars and officials alike searching for evidence in ancient texts and maps. Ancient history becomes a battleground for modern national narratives, as politicians and the media invoke the past to strengthen their positions. The past is a gray area, open to interpretation and ripe for nationalistic storytelling, with each side emphasizing different aspects of the same history. In this contested space, history is never truly settled. Each new discovery or reinterpretation only adds fuel to the ongoing debate, ensuring that the story of these lands remains as dynamic and unresolved as ever. South Korea sees a direct line from Goguryeo to Goguryeo to modern Korea. These kingdoms are taught as Korean, celebrated in schools and pop culture. Any challenge to this view is seen as erasing Korean heritage. China, meanwhile, frames these kingdoms as regional regimes within its historical territory. They emphasize geography and multi-ethnic history, not ethnic succession. Chinese records of tribute and titles are cited as evidence of subordination. This narrative supports China's unity and integrates ethnic Koreans into its national story. For South Korea, China's claims are historical imperialism. For China, it's about maintaining a multi-ethnic legacy. The dispute is less about facts and more about national identity. Each side's version of history serves a modern political purpose. In 2002, the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences launched the Northeast Project, igniting a diplomatic crisis. The project reclassified Goguryeo and Balhae as Chinese minority regimes, not Korean kingdoms. South Korea saw this as historical appropriation and responded with protests, academic rebuttals, and government action. The Northeast Project formalized China's stance, deepening mistrust. For Koreans, it confirmed fears of cultural erasure by a rising China. The project's legacy lingers, fueling suspicion and resentment. Beijing insists it was academic. Seoul sees political motives. The dispute became a symbol of historical revisionism. The wounds from this episode remain open in bilateral relations. The Northeast Project turned a scholarly debate into a public and diplomatic crisis. History became a weapon, not just a lesson. China and South Korea's relationship is built on deep economic ties, forming a complex web that shapes both nations' futures. Since 1992, when diplomatic relations were established, trade between the two countries has boomed. China is now South Korea's top trading partner, accounting for a significant portion of its exports and imports. Major Korean companies like Samsung and Hyundai have made huge investments in China, building factories and offices that employ thousands and drive innovation. This economic interdependence brought a sense of stability and mutual benefit, even as political tensions simmered beneath the surface. But security issues, such as South Korea's alliance with the US and the ongoing threat from North Korea, complicate the relationship and add layers of mistrust. The 2016 deployment of the THAAD missile system in South Korea shattered the fragile balance, sparking outrage in Beijing. China viewed THAAD as a direct security threat and retaliated economically, imposing boycotts, forcing business closures, and even banning popular Korean pop culture and entertainment. The fallout from this dispute showed just how quickly economic ties can be weaponized, turning cooperation into confrontation almost overnight. Even the deepest economic ties couldn't prevent a major rift when national security was at stake, revealing the limits of interdependence. The THAAD dispute left lasting scars, making both sides more cautious and wary in their dealings, with trust harder to rebuild. Trade and politics remain tightly linked, and history is never far from the surface, influencing perceptions and decisions even today. The relationship is a delicate dance of cooperation and rivalry, requiring constant negotiation and compromise. Old wounds can quickly reopen when new crises emerge, reminding both nations that the past is never truly forgotten. The Goguryeo dispute flares up with political tensions. During crises like THAAD, history becomes a tool for nationalism and diplomatic pressure. Chinese media revive the Northeast Project's arguments. Koreans see economic retaliation as proof of China's ambitions. The cycle of mistrust deepens, making compromise harder. Leaders risk backlash if they appear soft on history. The dispute poisons all aspects of the relationship, from trade to security. It even affects ordinary people, tourists, students, and online communities. Nationalist sentiment turns history into a source of animosity. The scars from these disputes can last for generations. The fight over ancient kingdoms is creating new divisions today. Ethnic Koreans in China, the Gyeoksianzu, are caught in the middle. Numbering around 2 million, they live mostly in former Goguryeo lands. Bilingual and culturally connected to both countries, they've been a bridge for trade and culture. But the historical dispute puts their identity under pressure. China frames their heritage as a minority culture within its borders, while South Korea sees them as part of the Korean diaspora. The Gyeoksianzu must balance loyalty to China with their Korean roots. There's growing fear of cultural assimilation and politicization. Their situation shows how history can shape real lives, not just national narratives. Instead of building understanding, the dispute risks turning them into a source of friction. For the Gyeoksianzu, the battle over Goguryeo is personal. History shapes national identity and pride in both China and South Korea. In Korea, Goguryeo is a symbol of greatness and resilience. Losing it from their narrative would feel like losing part of their soul. Chinese claims are seen as attacks on Korean identity. In China, the narrative supports a unified, multi-ethnic state. It legitimizes rule over diverse regions and reinforces national unity. Public opinion is easily inflamed. Cultural disputes, even over food, spark outrage. These clashes are proxies for deeper historical anxieties. Ordinary people feel the impact, turning history into a source of public anger. The past is alive in every cultural and political debate. The war over ancient kingdoms threatens both nations' futures. Economic retaliation and political fallout show the risks of letting history dictate diplomacy. Cooperation on regional issues becomes harder amid mutual suspicion. The only way forward is dialogue and mutual respect. Both sides must accept multiple interpretations of history. Governments should let historians debate, free from political pressure. Recognizing shared heritage can build resilience against future disputes. China and South Korea's intertwined destinies demand partnership, not rivalry. The legacy of Buyeo, Goguryeo, and Balhae should unite, not divide. A peaceful future depends on learning from, not fighting over the past.